Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. There's no doubt that Arsenal are slipping this season. But what is their biggest problem? Well, let's go to Google and find out. Why didn't Arsenal buy a striker? Top answer. Type in, why didn't Arsenal to Google, and the first recommendation will be buy a striker. Because that is their biggest problem right now. You know it, I know it. The local cat knows it. It's incredible. It's like Christmas dinner. You walk into the living room or the dining room and everything's there. The cranberry sauce, the bread sauce, the Brussels, the roast potatoes. And then you say to your mum, where's the turkey? Oh, I forgot to buy one. You didn't buy a bloody turkey? And that's what's going on at Arsenal. Why didn't you buy a striker? You look at Arsenal in the last couple of games, and I know people want to know what second and third are for why didn't Arsenal. I'll tell you in a minute. But Newcastle at the weekend, possession in their favour, no goals. Yesterday against Inter, possession in their favour, no goals. Obviously, Inter score with a penalty, Newcastle score a good goal, 2 losses for Arsenal. But it's not as simple as going, Arsenal have fell off. Arsenal are in trouble. Arsenal are in crisis. Because you watch them play, and when they get Odegaard back, they will be better. They will climb the league and they will be better. And people will be going, people were writing us off. But you still need a striker even with Odegaard. Like, why haven't you done it? And I take you back to the summer. And I remember Fabrizio Romano saying, Arsenal are not the type of club. Why didn't they buy a striker in the summer? Well, Fabrizio Romano said, because Arsenal are not the type of club that signs a player for the sake of it. And after Benjamin Sesko decided to stay at Leipzig, they didn't really fancy anybody else. Well, that's a good answer. You don't want to just buy any old thing. And they didn't want to buy someone for the sake of it. But the lesson is in the answer. They wanted Sesko. They didn't get him. There wasn't anybody else. So they wanted a striker. They didn't get the one they wanted. And they didn't get a striker. What remains is they wanted a striker. So they know they need a striker. And they're in another season without it. And the difference is, people will say, well, Havertz did quite well. And actually, it's not just about the summer that's just gone that's created this big problem. What about the summer before where they bought Havertz? When they could have gone for a striker then. And they went for Havertz. And I've always said this. I think Havertz has done fantastically well for Arsenal. But he ain't a striker. He's somebody that will have a burst of goals. But did he score against Newcastle? Did he score last night? Did he heck? And he had a big chance against Inter, but he's not a striker. I look at Arsenal and I look at those last 2 games and it tells you the problem. Maybe they win both games with Odegaard, but there will still be games where they're not putting the ball in the back of the net because Jesus and Havertz aren't that kind of guy. You do need a Lewandowski. You do need an Erling Haaland. Maybe even a Gyökeres at Sporting. Maybe even an Osman would have been interesting. But you need an out-and-out guy. Maybe even an Ivan Toney. Maybe even a Solanke. You need a striker. That is what Arsenal need. So that when you're away at Newcastle at the weekends, and you've got all that possession and you're trying to pass it in. I mean, how infuriating it must be for Arsenal fans. You get around the box and people are almost taking a touch before they shoot. Like, there is no instinct. There is no speed in the box. And that is what a striker's job is. Whether you're playing up front for Brentford or you're playing up front for Barnet, if you're a striker, you've come through the levels and you are about coming alive in the penalty box. You know, as a striker, Ruud van Nistelrooy used to say this, the way I used to score goals is I'd shoot quicker than I should do because I know that the goalkeeper won't be set. And even if you don't connect as well, the goal is not ready, so it will go in. Strikers are all about speed of movement and speed of shoot. Get the shot off as quick as you can. Arsenal aren't doing that, and it's their biggest problem. I think that going back to what Romano said and what we all know, they didn't get a striker in the summer because they couldn't find somebody that they wanted and they're not going to buy someone for the sake of it. But that's massively frustrating because surely you go, well, you're better off with something than nothing. So you couldn't get Sesko, which was an admission that you did want a striker. But then you went, well, if we can't get him, we won't get anybody. It's a bit like saying, I really want that cake, but I can't buy all of it. I can only get a slice, so I don't want any of it. Well, you could have had a slice of a cake. You could have had something. And I think it's costing them. And look, maybe, what was Edu's role in this? Everyone's saying Edu leaving Arsenal was a bad thing. It might be a good thing. It might be. But are they going to solve that in January? No. Is it going to be a problem for them this season? Yes. Would they have won the league this year if they had a striker? Honestly, some of their points they're going to drop anyway because of red cards, etc. But I do look at Newcastle at the weekend, and I do look at some of their games where they're struggling to score goals, and it would give them more confidence if they had a guy who can put the ball in the back of the net. And I look at them in the moment, and I just don't see with Jesus and Havertz the right sort of people for them. What I would say is, though, and I want to bring in Man City and Aston Villa to this, is that it's not unusual to analyse football and for people to go over the top. Arsenal are falling off, Villa are falling off, Man City are falling off. They're not all falling off. They've got a very hard weekend coming up, and funnily enough, we're doing a watch along with all three of those teams. Villa go to Anfield, I think they'll lose. Arsenal go to Chelsea, I don't think they'll win. Man City go to Brighton. I think they've got the best of the chance of the three of actually winning, but that'll be difficult as well. But these teams aren't done. This is just what happens normally in a season. You go through a period where you sort of look back on it and go, that wasn't a great period. And I think Villa are going through it a little bit at the moment. Obviously losing last night to Bruges, but also got battered by Spurs, late equaliser from Bournemouth. So they're not having a great run of things at the moment. Drew with Man United as well. That was 2 drop points, let's be honest. So... And then Arsenal just don't feel right at the moment. And as we spoke about Man City yesterday. But I think for Arsenal, Odegaard coming back will be very important. He's just a massive player. And you can see what Rodri's absence for Man City is doing. And I think for Arsenal, Odegaard as their captain, but chief creator as well, will make them better. But even if Arsenal bounce back, they're only going to end up in the semi-final of the Champions League or second place in the Premier League. What we're talking about here is Arsenal's biggest problem. And as murmurs start about whether Arteta's that guy, Arsenal at their best won't win the league because they haven't got that guy up front that when you're playing Newcastle and it's a difficult place and they've scored early and you've got loads of possession and you're trying to pass the ball in the back of the net and Newcastle are defending with a pair of slippers on, it's easy. You need that striker that's going to terrify. I mean, if you could put Erling Haaland up front for Arsenal or Lewandowski at the moment, they'd probably win the league. So the biggest problem for Arsenal is not losing to Inter and Newcastle. It's why aren't they winning the league? And the biggest problem for Arsenal is they haven't bought a striker. And fine, you didn't think there was anybody good enough as Sesko, but I don't understand that. I mean, maybe I'm different. Maybe people in the chat will have their own opinion, but I don't agree that you can't get Sesko so you get nobody. You've highlighted an issue that you need to solve. You couldn't get the guy you wanted, so you're not going to go for something that's not as good. But, you know, maybe a Jonathan David or a Solanke would have scored your goals against Newcastle and you got 3 points. So I think it's a stubbornness that's cost them, and it has been going. And also, I want to just say it's been going on for a long time. It's not just this summer, and Arsenal need to solve it. They really, really do. Get your comments in below. Just as a little bit of an Easter egg or whatever you call it at the end, when you type in "why didn't Arsenal" into Google, it will say buy a striker as your top choice. Second, build a bigger stadium. Third, why did Arsenal move to North London? Fourth, why did Arsenal play in white? Fifth, why did Arsenal wear white today? The best one is why did Arsenal sign Raya? That's in the top 9. That's the one that jumps out to me. What did they do wrong with that? Who's searching? Why did Arsenal sign Raya? It must be Ramsdale on loads and loads of computers. Why did they do it? Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Get your comments in below. Smash a like on the video, and I'll speak to you all soon. Big weekend coming up on this channel as well. Loads of good watch alongs, so make sure you subscribe. Speak to you all in a bit. Ta!